Welcome to another sermon from the Lewes Church of Christ. And now, here's Mark.
In 1990, in May of 1990, I graduated from the Cincinnati Bible College, which is now Cincinnati Christian University. Kind of sounds even better now. In May 1990, I graduated. In August of that same year, I loaded up all of my personal belongings, which, by the way, fit in the back of a minivan, and moved to Delaware for ministry. My mom and dad accompanied me on that 580-mile trip to my new home. I'll never forget the moment that Mom and Dad said goodbye and got back in the minivan and headed back to Ohio. My dad grabbed me in one of his bear hugs and he just said, "I love you, Bubba." Now, he didn't usually call me Bubba. It just kind of slipped out. And I kind of understand why it just slipped out. And then my mom grabbed a hold of me and threw a major hug and major tears. Said to me, "Mark, I pray for you every day." And you know what? That's all I needed. My daddy's love and my mama's prayer. That's all I needed. They had me covered. My daddy's love and my mama's prayer. That's all I needed. The Apostle Paul does something very similar to that in the letters that he wrote to the Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, and Colossians. He does something really similar. And when he writes to those people, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, I want you to know that he was writing from prison. He's in prison. He had been arrested for preaching the gospel of Jesus. And he continues to write the people that he loves. He continues to write to those people that he influenced for Jesus Christ. And all through those letters, he keeps reminding them and indicating to them that he was praying for them. And every day, he was praying for them. And in fact, he was covering them. He had them covered in prayer. The name of our new sermon series for March is simply called Gotcha Covered. Gotcha Covered. And I think what the Apostle Paul was doing in those 4 letters, and he kept reminding those people he loved, those people he influenced for Jesus, gotcha covered. Now, often when somebody texts me or emails me or calls me or even speaks face-to-face and says, "Hey, Mark, will you pray very specifically for this event happening in my life or this situation happening in my life?" I often text back, "Got you covered." Meaning, I got you covered. I've already prayed for you, and I will continue to pray for you. I got you covered. And if you hear me ever say or send you or text you, "Got you covered," I hope that encourages you. Praying for you. Got you covered. I want you to see how the Apostle Paul does this in Ephesians chapter 3 today. Just like 14 through 19, I want you to see this. And I just want you to know my time in this passage has made me a better preacher. This week, I'm a better preacher. Look at this text. "For this reason, I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and earth derives its name. And I pray out of his glorious riches that you would be strengthened with power from his Spirit to your inner being, that Christ may dwell in your hearts. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, will have the power, together with all the Lord's holy people, to grasp how wide and long and how high and how deep is the love of Jesus. And to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that all of you would be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Wow. I want you to know that my time in this passage this week, here's what's happening in this passage. The Apostle Paul is mentoring me. And I want you to know that as a result of my time in this prayer, this passage this week, I have been made a better preacher. Because in this text, the Apostle Paul tells me two things that I know, two things that every one of you want from your preacher. Two things every one of you wants from your preacher. Now, I've been preaching 26 years. And I know that there's sometimes a lot of unfair expectations like thrust upon the preacher. But this text makes it absolutely clear there are two things you definitely want from your preacher. Two things you want from your pastor. Two things you want from the leadership team of the church. Are you ready for these? Two things. Number one, I know that you want from your preacher, you want him on his knees before the Father. I know that. You want your preacher on his knees before the Father. You want your preacher having calloused knees. You want your preacher having to buy new pants from time to time because his knees are wore out. When you see him on PDO on Monday, you want to see him in his jeans with holes right here, right? That's what you want from your preacher. You want your preacher on his knees before the Father. I know that. You do. Literally, it says, bow my knees before the Father. That's what you want from your preacher. And it indicates, doesn't it, that he's under submission and he's intimate. Submission to God and intimate with the Father. That's what you want from your preacher. Submissive to God and intimate with the Father. I know that that's what you want. And the Bible keeps reminding me, it keeps reminding me all the time that my first priority in ministry needs to be prayer. And when the Bible reminds me of prayer, it's referring to my communication with the Father, with the Lord, my communication. It's referring to my relationship with the Lord. It's referring to my reliance on Him, right? And you want your preacher on his knees before the Father. I know that. The second thing is I know that you want your preacher on his knees on your behalf. Can I get an oh yeah? Oh yeah. I know you want your preacher on his knees on your behalf. I know you do. And what I love for this passage tells me, here's what I got from it, as Paul's mentoring me, here's what I got from it. There are two requests that he prays for his people. Two requests that he prays on behalf of the people he loves. And two requests that I want to pray on the behalf of the people that I love. Two requests. The first request on your behalf is that I want you to experience God. The first request on your behalf, I want you experiencing God. I want you to look back at, starting in verse 14. Look at it. For this reason I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and earth derives its name. And I pray out of His glorious riches that He may give you power, that He may strengthen you with power from His Spirit to your inner being, that Christ may dwell in your hearts. I love this text, and look what's happening. I want you, every one of you, to experience God. And not generally, very specifically. In fact, look at this text. This text tells me very specifically that here's my prayer for you. I want you experiencing the Father's provision, the Spirit's power, and the Son's presence. Did you catch those things? Verse 16, out of his glorious riches. We're talking about the God of the universe. And so out of his glorious riches, the Father's provision. I'm praying the Father's provision for you. And then the Spirit's power. Out of his glorious riches, I pray that you will be strengthened through his Spirit in your inner being. Power. The word power here is the Greek word dunamis, from which we get our word dynamite. The word means power or force or energy, ability from the Holy Spirit. Anybody need more energy these days? Anybody want me praying for more energy for you? I tell you what, that's better than a 5-hour energy drink. You know, Steve, I'm sorry, that's better than espresso, double espresso from Starbucks. I'm praying, wow, Father's provision, the Spirit's power, and then the third one, and last but not least, right? The Son's presence. That Jesus may dwell in your hearts through faith. The Father's provision, the Spirit's power, the Son's presence, I tell you what, that's all you need. Could I pray anything better for you? That's all you need. The Father, I want you experiencing God. The Father's provision, the Spirit's power, the Son's presence. That's all you need. And I want you to know, got you covered. The second request on your behalf is that I want you experiencing love. More than anything, I want you experiencing God, and I want you experiencing love, real love. Look at this, the second part of verse 17. And I pray that you being rooted and established in love. Wow. Rooted and established. That reminds me of something. I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have the power, together with all the Lord's holy people, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness. My prayer for you, my second request on your behalf, is that you would experience love, real love. There's some pretty cool things happening here. Did you see the first one? Rooted and established. Reminds you of something, right? I want you rooted and established. I want you deep and wide. I want you living on the foundation of Christ's love. I want you breathing love. I want you doing life out of his love. And then, did you see the second one? That you could grasp. That all of you could grasp how wide and long and high and deep of Christ's love. The word grasp there is really interesting to me. It means to take by force and to make it mine. I want all of you taking by force the love of Jesus and making it yours. I want you experiencing love. And then I want you to know this love that surpasses knowledge. Now, I wish I could explain it to you, but it surpasses knowledge, so I really can't. So I just want you to experience it. Right? In fact, the word to know here is the word that means to know via personal experience. Religion can know about Jesus. Christianity knows Jesus. There's a big difference there, isn't there? And that's why we spent all last month pleading with you to lose your religion. I don't want you knowing about Jesus. I want you knowing Jesus. Amen? Because I want you to experience love. And then, did you see this last thought? Because my prayer is that you would be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. What? That you would be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Whatever that means, I'm praying it for you. More than anything, I want you experiencing God, and I want you experiencing love, and that's what I'm praying. I got you covered. In other words, in short, I want you to thrive. I want you to thrive. On a very personal level, in a very deep way, I want you to thrive. And that's what it means to thrive. Experiencing God and experiencing love. That's what it really means to thrive. Experiencing God and experiencing love. And that is what I'm praying for you. I want you to thrive. I got you covered. Seriously. I want you to thrive. Julia, I want you to thrive. Rick, I want you to thrive. Angel, I want you to thrive. Michael, Dylan, I want you to thrive. I want you to thrive. Michael, Allison, I want you to thrive. Ed, I want you to thrive. I really do. My prayer for you, I got you covered. I want you to thrive. Cliff, welcome back from the Keys. I want you to thrive, and you better be thriving right now. I want you to thrive. Ed, I want you to thrive. Susan, I want you to thrive. Paul, I want you to thrive. Norm, I want you to thrive. Johnny, I want you to thrive. Johnny, I want you to thrive. Randy, all y'all, I want you to thrive. I do. And for this very reason, I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and earth derives its name. And I pray out of his glorious riches, that he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit to your inner being, that Christ may dwell in your heart. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, will come to grasp together, all of us together with the Lord's holy people, to grasp how wide and long and how high and how deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge. And I want you filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Friends, church family, I got you covered.
This has been a presentation of the Lewes Church of Christ. We are located at 15183 Coastal Highway, Milton, Delaware, 3 miles north of Lewes on Highway 1. Our service times are 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. every Sunday morning.